Hi, my name is Keri Barnum. I am the Executive Director of New Shelves Books, and we are here for Free Advice Friday, the hour every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern, where we get together to talk about writing, publishing, book marketing. We share our experiences, we ask questions live, and as a community, together we grow and we learn new things. That's our goal, and I hope that we meet it every week. We're so happy you joined us. This week, we've got questions coming in on the Q&A box, and we also have quite a few that were emailed in. So we're going to cover as much as we can within the hour, and let's get started. Let me see. I'm planning on going wide through draft to digital or publish drive, but I'm unsure about how the marketing works regarding advertising. Any ideas of what works, please? Thank you. Well, Sheila, when you're going broad or wide with your distribution, there are marketing opportunities on each platform. Let's say Barnes & Noble has some marketing opportunities. There's certainly opportunities on, let's say, Kobo or Apple. But I have found that if you're going broad, the best marketing is actually from outside traffic. So if you're on a certain topic, let's say that your book is all about gardening, going to a gardening website, going to a forum or something like that, and finding where you can market your books and then offer them on all the platforms is actually the better way to go. Now, I'm sure you've heard that on Amazon, we market directly to Amazon consumers. And the reason why is that Amazon is one of the top 3 search engines in the web, on the web. And so there are so many customers there on a day-to-day basis searching that it makes sense to go ahead and market directly on Amazon for your KDP books, your Kindle or your Amazon print books, because there's a market already there, and if you can grab them, great. And while certainly places like Barnes & Noble and Kobo have fantastic traffic, it may not be as easy to target the market there. And so going to where your readers hang out and marketing there is a way that you can market on any platform. You can send people directly to Barnes & Noble, or you can market with some type of advertisement that says my book is available at Kobo, Apple, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, IndieBound, and you can really hit a wider audience and also share more links that way. So that's what I would be considering. Let me see. Oops, I didn't actually hit the button. Okay. When can I use a great quote from a former Weight Watch coach? Editorial reviews, website, anything else? Yep. So if you've got a great endorsement or a quote from someone in your industry, or just someone who's got some weight behind them, maybe it's a New York Times bestseller, or it's someone who's big in your industry, either with a big company, or maybe you've written a book that has to do with psychological research, and this is someone who practices in the field. If you've got a great endorsement, absolutely place it in your editorial reviews when you're uploading your book to Ingram Spark, Amazon, Draft to Digital, and anywhere else. Make sure that you put that in there because it's fantastic. You can use it right inside your book if you have a list of endorsements inside your book. That's very common in the front matter. You can use it on the cover of your book. If you have a one-liner that you really want to shout out, you can do that. We see that a lot in traditional publishing. You can also use it in social media graphics and sharing it online. You can use it on your website. It is amazing how one little endorsement can really go a long way. If you are pitching to libraries and it's someone a library would respect, you can certainly lead with that. You can lead as your headline. You can use it on your book one sheet, your marketing. A great endorsement from someone that is notable in your industry or field can absolutely get you a lot of mileage, and I would recommend that you sprinkle it throughout everywhere. If it's a great quote, use it and use the heck out of it. And congratulations on getting that. Let's see. I'm totally having bumbling fingers today. I can't hit anything. All right. Yeah. Joan says, I miss Yassiv. And Yassiv, for those of you who don't know, was a marketing matrix that Amazon used to support, where you could type in a title and it would create this matrix of other books or products that were related to that book title. And it was amazing for market research. And Joan saying she misses that. I do too, Joan. And Amazon's features that let you trace the path to BookSpot, similar to yours. Do you have a recommendation for a Yassiv replacement? Unfortunately, I don't. Yassiv has not been replaced, and to my knowledge, it's not currently being replaced. I have heard rumors, I don't know if they're true, that Amazon will be creating a paid service or something linked to KDP that they will be offering exclusively on their own. However, in the meantime, there are marketing tools that do things similar to this. Publisher Rocket is one of them. Jay Boyer's marketing tools, the Apex tools also do this. So there are tools, but most all of them are paid tools, and they have different options where they can help you find books in your genre, in certain categories, and also with keywords. So there are options out there, but almost all of them are paid software. In the meantime, who knows what Amazon will come up with and if they will create their own version of Yassiv. But it's something I'm certainly keeping my eye on. And if anyone hears anything, please let me know, because I'd absolutely love to share it. Let me see. You once said that pre-orders were not a good idea and don't help your ranking. I'm a debut author and wonder why people would have pre-orders anyway. Well, Pat, pre-orders, let's caveat that. They're not typically a good idea for the self-published author, because you typically are going after your market, your warm market, the people you know, your email list. And if you have them go and do your pre-order, they're kind of going to trickle in. You're not really going to have a huge market of, let's say, bookstores and libraries and strangers buying your book unless you've marketed the heck out of this. And so what happens is that those sales kind of slowly, very slowly trickle in, because if people don't know you, if they haven't been waiting for your book, they probably are not keen and very excited to fork out a certain amount of money for a book they won't get for weeks to months. So that is why it's not always a good idea, because it makes your books very slow in the beginning. And the algorithms on places like Amazon pick up on that. They pick up that people may be visiting your page but not buying. And Amazon specifically very much is concentrated on the user experience. They want to make sure that not only is the user enjoying a product, which is why they do reviews, but they are also trying to make sure that when they present a product in a search, that it gets a high conversion, because that conversion tells them that the search that book was in was appropriate, that it's what people were looking for, they bought it, and therefore they're happy. And so as that happens, if people aren't buying because you're on pre-order, it starts to tell the algorithms, nah, don't really like that book. It's probably not a great product that we want to show to people. And that's why it can hurt you. Why would some people do that? Well, if you're a big publisher, if you are, let's just take Nora Roberts. Nora Roberts is going to do a pre-order. Why? She has a huge audience that will go buy that book. Those sales will stack up. And not only are people pre-ordering from places like Amazon, they're pre-ordering from bookstores, direct from the publisher, and so on and so forth. So that kind of impact will absolutely matter when she launches her book. And the algorithms, let's be honest, they're not going to be hurt by a couple people not buying the book. She's got enough traffic. But she also has a publishing company behind her with PR and marketing. So months before that book comes out, she's doing marketing opportunities, she's speaking, she's doing book signings, she's doing all sorts of things to push traffic to that website and for those sales. That's when it makes sense. That's when it makes sense to stack up all of your pre-orders for a huge launch. So it's not that pre-orders are never great. It's that pre-orders on Amazon for the average self-published author are not great, and they can actually hurt you more than help you. So you kind of have to weigh what you're doing. If you're doing a huge PR campaign, pre-orders may make sense. It depends on your personal goals and what your marketing plan and what your book launch plan is. Another way that pre-orders may make sense is if you are doing a series. If you have a series and you're marketing, let's say, books 1 and 2, because they're out and you're rapid fire launching, 6 weeks or a month away from each other. For a series, you may want to do a pre-order, because if you've got the readers on book 1 and book 2, you want to capture them on book 3. You want them to go and pre-order so that they keep reading through the series. So sometimes series do make sense for pre-order on Amazon for self-published authors. Again, it's all about knowing your goals and having a marketing strategy and launch for your book. Let's see. Ingram Spark error, saying there is a color in my PDF book interior, but I have deleted all images. Also, my cover failed for the same reason. So my question when you're doing an Ingram Spark upload is, did it fail or did it give you a warning? I've uploaded a lot of books to Ingram Spark, and I'm talking a lot. And every single time, almost without exception, we get some type of warning saying your color may be off, or will you give Ingram Spark permission to adjust your color files or your cover, that kind of file? And will you give them permission to do that? And realizing it may change your color slightly. We generally say yes, and that's why we order approved to make sure it's fine. Ingram Spark has a very slim margin for their color specs, and it's very common for them to kind of throw the caveat out there that we may have to adjust your color just a skosh and ask for permission. So if you're getting that warning, you can click yes and allow it to be pushed through. If you're getting it completely kicked back, that's different. And I'd have to see the specific error message in order to help there. But very often it's just saying, either your image is higher resolution than it needs to be, or the color may need to be adjusted. That kind of thing is very, very common. Yeah. That's David saying he's had the same thing from Ingram Spark and accepts it. I think in a little way, it's a little bit of covering their rear end, saying that, hey, we're just going to let you know that we might have to change your files a little bit, because then if the color is slightly off, they're covered. So do with that what you will, but I would, if it's just the color or resolution where they're saying they may need to adjust it. Now, if they're saying your images are low resolution and will not print well, that's different. But if they say they're very high resolution and they may need to bring them down, I don't worry about it. Yes, if it's just that warning, like I said, I just let it ride. All right. I am so excited that I got a pre-order in place on Draft to Digital, because I always wanted one on Amazon, but they knocked me off for a year for something I don't remember. I used Draft to Digital for the first time yesterday. This gives me time to organize where I want to market or put our images to social. That's exactly right. If you've got a purpose for your pre-order, go for it. It totally makes sense then. And sometimes people will do a pre-order, but just for the ebook or just for a very short amount of time. Sometimes people will do a pre-order 3 weeks in advance just so they can start marketing and sending people to a sales page. Again, it just depends on what your goals are. All right. My paperback price is listed at $39.85. Wow, Amazon will not change it despite my original stated price of $14.99. They said they will match a price if it's sold elsewhere at $14.99. What do I do to get Amazon to return the price? So my question for you would be, is it selling directly from Amazon, or is it a used book? Or is it maybe being sold as new from a third party? A third party can list your book for whatever they want to. There's the MSRP, there's the suggested price that Amazon will sell it for. But sometimes even Amazon, if you list your book at $14.99, Amazon can sell it for $12.59. And they can sell it for $12.59 to kind of entice buyers. you still get the same royalty. You still get the same payout for that book because it goes off of your MSRP that you set in the back end when you're uploading your book. Just like Barnes & Noble can run a 30% discount on your book if it's in the store. They can go down. And likewise, while it's not common practice for big locations like, let's say, Barnes & Noble or Amazon, there are third-party sellers who will hike a book up, especially if that book is no longer being printed. So is it an old edition of your book? If so, sometimes people wonder if it's rare, if it's hard to find, and they will try to hike the price up to make it seem special. And we see that. And if people buy it, they buy it. We really have no control of that because a third-party seller has already paid us for our book. They've already bought it from, let's say, Ingram or Ingram Spark, and they're reselling it. They now own that second party of the book. It's like if I, let's say I bought a couch for $200 and then I turned around and sold it on Facebook Marketplace for $500. Well, the company who sold it to me is probably going, it was only $200 an hour ago, but I have the right to sell it for whatever I want. And that's kind of how it works. But the original seller already got their fee. They already got paid. So also know that retailers can do that. Amazon absolutely does that, depending on if your book is in a hot topic that's being searched a lot. If your book is selling elsewhere and they can tell, they may hike the price down. They may bring the price down. So there's a lot of different things that will do that, but you still get paid based on the price you set. If this is the new edition of your book, it is being sold by Amazon.com and it is high. That's when I'd be looking at it a little bit differently, but very rarely, if ever, is that the case. Yeah, so how do we know what edition of a book is being sold? That is a great question. So my friends, we'll go live. Let me pull up Amazon. I'm the queen of tabs, so I'm gonna get out of my, 70 tabs that I have up here and get into an Amazon account. Just one second. All right, I'm going to go live so that we can look at this together. I'm going to share my screen with Amazon. There we go. All right, so let's take a look at this to see how we know what edition of a book is selling. Let's see, so let's do, I can't type just because I'm nervous. All right, so we have Lady Margaret's Escape, which is Vicky's book here. So let's click on it. We can see this is selling. I see exactly what you're saying, Vicky, where this is selling. You've got $3.99 for your ebook, and then you've got $39.85 for the paperback. It is saying new, so let's click on it. See where it was hyperlinked? I've got to move our faces out of the way because on my end, our screen is over here. All right, so let's see more. So it is selling from Amazon.com and it is selling for the $39.85, which is very strange. What I would then do is I would click on here and see, check down here and check on the ISBN and see if this is your most recently published book. And if it is, then that's something you take back to Amazon. I will say that's not normal. I would be looking at, obviously, the ISBN and make sure that that is to your new book. Let's take an example, though, of what it might look like for another book. Let's do... all right, let's see if we can find this. I should have done. Oh my goodness. I told you guys I was having a hard time with my typing, right? There we go. because I like to pick on Randy, and he is such a good sport. Look, still #1 new release in Irish poetry. Good job, buddy. All right, so we can see here when we're looking on Randy's book that there are several books that are to used, new, new for different prices, and this is third-party sellers. So let's click on this here. And when we look down here, we can see that this is Amazon's price is selling for $10.99. I'm willing to bet that is the price that Randy set up on KDP. But then you can see that while he's selling it for $10.99 on Amazon, Book Depository over here is selling it for $12.52. So they have effectively gone on to Ingram Spark, or Ingram rather, because they're buying from Ingram Wholesale. They've bought a copy of the book and they're reselling it, and they've hiked up the price to $12.52. And that's what they're doing. They have the right to sell it. It's a free marketplace. So they can, but this is what will show up first. Most people like to buy directly from Amazon, especially because it means that they get the free shipping if they have Amazon Prime. Then we see Super Book Deals is selling it for less. They're trying to undercut. Again, free marketplace. They can do that. This person over here is selling it for $20. California Book says, man, this is an awesome book and I can sell it for $20 if I want to. And if they sell it, they sell it. Their prerogative, because that's what Amazon does. Not only do they list products that they that are going through their platforms like KDP, they also allow third-party sellers to sell on their platform. And that third-party seller can sell it for pretty much whatever they want. Doesn't mean they will sell it. If I'm looking and I say, hey, I can get it directly from Amazon.com, who I trust, for $10.99 with free shipping, I'm not going to go for a third-party seller and buy it for $20. It doesn't make sense. So when we look at that, those are some of the things to think about and consider. Vicki, your situation looks a little bit different, and I am happy to look at that for you. But my first thing would be making sure it's the newest edition and checking out the ISBN that way to see if that's what's going on. Or if maybe they have an out of print or an old edition that they're selling for some reason. So. All right. If an author wants to be a guest on podcasts, what podcast databases do you recommend? The iTunes podcast directory is huge and unfortunately gives you only podcast titles. You have to click on each one to learn about what the podcast is about. Well, I would say rather than a podcast directory, which just has tons of information, I would be recommending that you search podcasts based on your topic. If you wrote a budgeting book, Google budget and finance podcast. There are lists all over the place, and then you go out and research them. It takes a little bit of time, but if you find a podcast that really fits your topic specifically, you will be getting a better conversion. So when you're pitching people and you pitch directly to them based on the topic that you have that's in common with them, and you let them know that you've actually listened to part of their podcast and you loved it, you are way more likely to get booked than if you just have a directory of fiction book podcasts that you're pitching everyone for. It doesn't convert very well. And so while it seems like it would be the most efficient way to do things, what happens is you actually are spending more time pitching a bunch of people without a lot of success. Whereas if you go and do some targeted research, you will take longer on the research, but your conversion and payoff will be better. And then you're getting responses more quickly. You're not out there still pitching 10 weeks from now with no placement. You've already got a placement. So go for the targeted in that way. If you're a fiction book author, did you write on certain topics? For example, I have an author who wrote a historical novel that's all based around the Civil War. So I told him, let's go find podcasts that specifically talk about history, that talk about the Civil War, that talk about topics that you cover in your book, and let's pitch them. Doesn't matter if it's not a podcast about books. It doesn't have to be a book podcast. It has to be a podcast that would have an audience that would be interested in your books. And I think that's really an important part too, is a lot of people think, well, I have to find a book podcast or a book blog or different things like that. But you can have a lot of success pitching your book and your topics to podcasts and bloggers who have different that aren't book focused, but are still interested in your topics. Not only that, they are hitting an audience that's interested in your topics that aren't inundated with book suggestions. So they may actually convert even better for you and get you more bang for your time, bang for your buck there, because they are going to that audience in a way that they're not being inundated with books. So that's what I would absolutely suggest. That's what I would do. Let's say I don't know how to Google. I don't have the time. Go find an administrative assistant. Go find a college or high school kid that you could hire to do some of these things for you. But really, Google is our friend. Find a contact and make sure that when you're pitching, don't just give a blanket pitch. Somehow you need at least one sentence that specifically speaks to that platform and how you can be helpful to that person. That's how you get conversions. All right. All right. Wonderful tips on COVID book launches. Might you have a guest speaker that dedicates the session to book launches? That's a great idea. As far as book launches, again, it depends on your genre. It depends on where people are and where they hang out. COVID obviously has changed a lot for events. You're not so much being in person, which is really a damper sometimes. But I've seen beautiful book launches that focus on things such as Facebook Live events, especially if you have a collaboration of authors that can play off of each other, doing things like giveaways, doing book readings. There are quite a few bookstores that are opening up for events now and book signings. I have seen people pre-sell where they are doing, they're sending out signed copies and they're sending them out a little bit early so everyone gets them on book launch day. I have seen people do amazing things with social media where they are running contests for people who get the book on launch day and take a picture and tag them on social media. So it's a constant social media run. Blog tours are great depending on your genre. So many ways to get the word out there. And really it's making sure that you're concentrating it. If you really want to make a splash with your book launch, concentrate your efforts. Don't string it out along over a month because it'll trickle so slowly. It's like taking pebbles. If I take pebbles and I sprinkle them into water, they'll each make a little splash and it'll be great. But if I take a whole handful of pebbles and I go like this, then we're going to get a big splash. And that's kind of what people want with a book launch. Just keep in mind that that big splash is awesome and it'll send out ripples, but those ripples fade away. So you have to follow it up with long-term efforts. And that's something you have to have in plan. For a great book launch, you really have to have things in plan to continue on after you make your big splash. And that's where we see a lot of authors fall short, is they put all this effort into the book launch and then they don't take it anywhere after. Make sure that if you're getting eyes on your book and getting sales, that you are also putting something in the back of the book or on your website to grab that audience and put them on your mailing list for future efforts, that you are growing your social media and your platform. Make sure that when you're getting in touch with someone, you're making that relationship last as long as possible. That's funny. Yep. 30 tabs is a lot. I don't actually have 70. Not today anyway. Sometimes though I have multiple tabs of tabs, and it's because I go back and forth. My husband actually laughs at me because, guys, I have not one laptop. I have two laptops and a desktop. And sometimes I work on all three of them simultaneously. And I jokingly say they just can't keep up with me. And so I need them all. I need this one to render a video while I'm doing research on this one. And then I'm zooming on this one. And so it's a running joke in my house that not only do I have three computers, but I use them like every day. It's a joke. All right, and Caroline's saying authormedia.com/podcast. Can't talk. Let's try that again. authormedia.com/podcast-host-directory, which is dropped into our chat here. But for those of you watching after, is a great resource for podcasts, which is awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Caroline. All right. If I put 55% discount on Ingram Spark, will libraries get 40% off instead of the 20 to 25? Yes. So let's talk discounts. This has come up so often recently. Number one, when you put up your book, hear me now. Please hear me if you hear nothing else today. Your book needs to be priced the same on every platform. Please do not put your book up on KDP for Amazon at $10.99 and then put your book up on Ingram Spark for $12.99 so you can discount it. Not only is that illegal, yes, I did say illegal. It's actually not, there was a ruling in the Supreme Court of 2007 about pricing differently for MSRP. It's illegal, guys. Don't do it. Just don't. And also, it's in every single platform's agreement that you will not price your book lower for somebody else. A little bit different if you're selling directly yourself, but when you're offering MSRP to KDP for Amazon, Ingram Spark, if you're on Draft to Digital and Amazon, you need to make your pricing across the board the same. That is how we make friends in libraries and bookstores and on Amazon. And we get the, we spread the love all over without making people angry. So that first. Second, let's talk about discount at Ingram Spark. When you put your book up on Ingram Spark and you set your discount for 55%, Ingram Spark will go ahead, they'll print your book, and they charge you for the printing. That's how they make their money. Then they send the book over to Ingram Wholesaler, which is a different company. Ingram Wholesaler keeps 15%. That is their fee for putting you in their catalog. Then the bookstore, the library, will get 40% discount on average. So that is how the chain works. A bookstore will then buy it at a 40% discount. Barnes & Noble buys it at a 40% discount. They put it on their shelves. They pay their employees. They pay their overhead, and they still make a profit. That is how the book industry works and thrives. Some people will sometimes say, well, I'm doing print on demand, and I can't afford to do a 55% discount. I'm going to do a 40% discount. Great. If that's your choice, fine. Know that retail stores generally will not pick up your book then because there's no profit margin for them. Libraries are fine with this though. Libraries actually will buy very short. They'll buy at 5 to 10%, but not often. They have to really want your book. Typically, libraries like to see a 20 to 25% discount. If you set your book at a 40% discount on Ingram Spark, after Ingram Wholesaler takes their 15% discount, the libraries will get their 25% discount, and it works. That's how it works if you do KDP expanded distribution. That's exactly what's happening. KDP is taking your book, they are uploading it to Ingram Spark at a 40% discount. And rather than you doing it, KDP is doing it at a 40% discount. They're taking part of your profit. Ingram Spark's taking their printing price, and so on and so forth. That's how the chain works. So KDP expanded distribution is going into Ingram. And they're doing it with that 40% discount, just like you would do on Ingram Spark. So that's how you get that 25% discount for libraries. And yes, that does work either way. How to price your book. So when we are looking at pricing books, I always say go to your market, go see what people are currently willing to pay for books like yours. Look for overall word count or page count. Look for the author. Is this a well-known author? Is it a new author? Is it a traditionally published author that's getting a lot of PR? Or is it an indie author? Find comps that are as close to you as possible. This means you're finding an indie author who writes in family drama, who has a word count close to you. And then look at them and see who's selling, who's on the bestseller lists under these guidelines. Those are your comps. Usually you will find there's a trend within a couple of dollars difference. So for example, I'm working right now on a feel-good chick lit romantic mystery. And when we were looking at comps, we found consistently that books were priced anywhere between $12.99 and $17.99. $17.99 actually wasn't the popular authors. It was more often than not the indie published authors, but they probably aren't selling many paperback. Then the $12.99 were the big publishers who could afford that big discount. We have decided to price right smack dab in the middle at $14.99 because when we looked at all the comps that seemed reasonable, it seemed to do well. Now when we're looking at ebooks, same thing. When you look at ebooks, you will see a wide variety. Usually indie books are going closer to $2.99 in this genre, but you will see some traditional houses that are selling for $12.99 and up. So in that case, we looked very much towards the indie authors who are doing better, and we found that books were priced between $2.99 and $6.99. Again, we decided to go right down in the middle. But you have to find strong comps. And when you're looking for comps, please do me this favor. Do not go find a book and say, well, I love this book 20 years ago and I think it's just like mine. Unless that book is still selling, unless it's still relevant, unless you can go into a room and over half of the people have heard of or bought that book, it's not a great comp. Find a comp that's selling now in the last year, maybe two, but find current comps, because otherwise it's not currently selling, it's not on trend. And also don't compare your book to a book that's been out of date for years. It will mean nothing. If I say my book is exactly like West Against the Wind by Liza Ketchum, does that mean anyone? No one gets it, right? Absolutely not, because that book is so old. I'm pretty sure it's out of print, and I read it when I was like 10. So does that mean anything to you? No. If I then say, okay, my book is exactly like Harry Potter. My book, readers who enjoy, look, I'm looking at my bookshelf. Readers who enjoy John Grisham will enjoy this book. That's the kind of comparison you need to make. You need to fall in line with what people are comfortable with and what they know off the top of your head. Your comps can even be common or a trending Netflix series. I was just talking to an author yesterday, I don't know, the days are melding, this week has been crazy, but I was just talking to an author and I said Emily in Paris would be the perfect comparison. Emily in Paris is currently trending on Netflix. It's something a lot of people have heard of, and if I say that, people immediately get a picture in their mind of what your book will be about, and that's what we want to do. We want to use as few words as possible to give people a big picture about what our book is about, and comps are a great way to do that, but you have to choose your comps really wisely. Yeah, is the pricing advice the same for nonfiction? Absolutely. Go find books like yours. And so nonfiction books do tend to be priced a little higher very often. But you have to go with your comps, because if you don't, if you say, well, I'm just going to take my print price and go 4 times higher, you may be pricing yourself out of the market, or you may be underpricing your book. I work with an author who has a book that is very specific. It's not textbook, but it's pretty darn close. If he only charged 4 times printing cost, he would be losing so much money and so many sales, because what's selling in the marketplace is much more than that. It takes a lot of research to get to a book like his, and so they're actually probably selling for 8 times the printing cost. So that's why we say, look at the market, look at what the market can withstand, and place your book in that market. Yeah, how do you find that comp? Well, you can find those comps on bestseller list. Look to the New York Times, look to USA Today, look right on Amazon. Amazon's got bestsellers, you guys. Super easy to do. And since I've already been live, why not do it again? Give me a second here. So when you are looking for your comps, this is what I always do. Find something in your genre. So let's say chick lit 2021. Sure. We're going to find something. And when I'm looking for a book, I am always looking for a book that has a lot of sales, a lot of reviews. I want like big time stuff. Big Little Lies. Let's click on that. Looks like it's selling pretty good. Now this is older, so I need to make sure it's still current. But the important thing is, I don't even have to use this as my comp. What I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down to the categories, and I'm going to check the category. And I'm going to say, does this category fit for my book? Women's divorce fiction. Yeah, spot on. I'm going to click on that one. I now am on the Amazon bestseller list for women's divorce fiction. This is updated hourly, so I can be assured it's probably pretty updated, and I can look through these books and see if they are similar to mine. Now, maybe mine is not magical. It's not fantasy. Horrible comps. This one right here, though, the Empty Nesters, that might be a good one. That's how you kind of can go, and that's an easy trick to do. You can also just go to the bestseller list. You come up to Amazon, you go to bestsellers. I'm gonna move my face again. And then we go to books. When you go to books, it's your bestseller list. You can look at different categories. Dr. Seuss, obviously trending, partially probably because it was just Dr. Seuss Day and Dr. Seuss has been in the news. But let's say I've got a memoir and I want to know about memoirs. I can go here and then I can niche down as much as possible. Big categories, great. But niching down really helps us find good comps. So sports and outdoors. I've got a sports memoir. I don't. You don't want to see me try to do sports. And maybe, yeah, it's totally a basketball memoir. This would be a great comp. And you kind of go through it. It takes some time. It takes research. But guys, if your marketing, the cornerstone of your marketing is your comps. It's how you pull keywords. It's how you run your ads. It is how you know what covers are appealing to your market. So much of your marketing is based on your comps. This is worth taking the time to do. And it starts with finding your comps, and a good way to do that is right on bestseller list. Barnes & Noble has bestseller list. Again, USA Today, New York Times. Those are all great ways to start finding your comps. All right. Book returns from bookstores that could be returned anytime, and I would have to repay them. And the loss scares me financially. So let's talk about returns. Let's talk about Ingram, Spark, and returnability on books. And let's talk about how bookstores actually buy books. So when you are setting your book up on Ingram Spark, one of the things that really scares people is there's a return option, and you can say no, or you can say that yes, you want it to be returned or available for return. But it scares people because they're thinking, wow, what if someone buys 10,000 copies of my book and they return 9,900 copies? Then I'm out all of this money. But that rarely happens. So let's be honest. Number one, library sales. Libraries are not buying a book, putting it out on their shelves, letting some people check it out, and then trying to return it. It's just not, the library return system is very, very slim. So we can kind of push them to the side. Let's talk retail though. Let's talk bookstores. If you are pitching to a bookstore and asking them to carry your book, they may order it, and if it sits on their shelves, they may return it. However, unless you are a wildly popular author, unless you are Lee Child and they're like, we know we can sell lots of these books, so we're going to order a carton. What happens is they will probably order anywhere from 1 to 5 copies of your book to put on their shelves. 1 to 5. And they will try to sell those books. They'll put them on the shelves and see if they sell. If they sell, great. If they don't, can they return them? Yeah, but what they'll probably do first is they're probably going to discount it. Remember that bookstores would have bought the book at a 40% discount, so maybe they're going to slap a 10% discount sticker on your book and see if they can sell it for 10% discount, because they still make a profit. Maybe they'll even sell it for 25% discount and just hope they can call it a wash. Yeah. Let's say that they still can't. They're like, I'm returning. I'm going to get my money back for these 5 books. They can do that. Yes, you can get charged for them, but in most instances, they don't. You will see it occasionally, but not often, because it's not worth the time for them to do that. They'd rather sell them at a deeper discount to the consumer that they have. So while it does happen, and there are returns, and the more books you sell, the more returns you will see. It's just kind of how the math works out. Don't let returns scare you, because for bookstores, when they see something that's returnable, it's like insurance for them. It's like saying, well, would you like insurance on your phone? Let's say a phone. I pay into insurance for my phone all the time. I mean, everyone does, because they're expensive little buggers now. So we pay for insurance, but how often do you actually go in and do that and shatter your phone? How often has your car run over your phone and you've need it completely redone? Maybe a phone's a bad one, because we actually use these a lot. Medical insurance. I pay into medical insurance. I very rarely go to the doctor, but I have it just in case. And that's kind of how bookstores see it when you have returnability. It is a net for them in case they buy a bunch of books that they then need to return. That doesn't mean that they're returning books every day. So yes, you do need to look at it as a possible risk, but you also have to realize that from the retailer standpoint, they are taking a risk buying your book, and they'd like to know that they're not totally out if they get in a sticky situation. So you still have to make your own decisions. Having a returnable book is more appealing to bookstores, absolutely, and retail stores, but it's not something that they're returning books every day. I work with a lot of authors, and yes, I have seen returns, but it's not common practice. I wouldn't say that half the books get returned, or even a quarter. So keep that in mind as you're making your decisions. Yeah, so when you do returns, you can set the option to returns where the bookstore has to ship them back, or you can do a destroy option where they have to send back the covers, so they rip off the covers and send them back. It is less expensive for you because you don't have to pay shipping if they just destroy. That's what most people do. But if you get those books shipped back, you could resell them, sure. Yeah, when a bookstore closes, do they return the books? Well, have you ever seen a bookstore close? What do they usually do? They do massive sales. They're trying to make money where they can, because they'd rather get a 20% profit while the store's still open than no profit. So can they return them? Yes, but generally they're going to do a closeout sale first. Yes. All right. I've got an email question that I'm talking super special today. I'm going to hop over. We actually got a couple of these and I filed them away. All right. One of the questions we got was Wendy and talking about how much engagement is needed on Facebook and LinkedIn in order to include them in a one sheet. Is there any guideline for when you include your stats in a marketing sheet? Not really. I would say that if you've got 2 Twitter followers, I don't know that I'd be listing numbers, but you can still list your handles and say that you are marketing on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, even if you've only got 10 followers apiece. However, if you've got a lot of followers, if you've got a couple thousand followers, I would list that. I would list your Twitter handle and then put 10K followers. Facebook, X amount of followers. So when you're getting up into the thousands usually of followers, that may be worth listing. You can still list on your marketing materials and your one sheet, you can still list your handles for social media and tell people you're marketing there. I just wouldn't list the numbers until you get up into the thousands. That's when it really is like, okay, this person is really trying, they've made an impact. We often see the bar, especially for agents in traditional publishing, of 5,000 and up. So that's a good number to kind of keep in mind. And the second part of that question was, how do I up my social media engagement? I'm not very good at social media, so how can I up it? Can I use a mock-up shot and post it, which a mock-up shot, again, is an image featuring your book. And can I post it with a quote from my book? Absolutely. You can do a mock-up shot or an image or graphic of your book with your Amazon link. You can do it with your Barnes & Noble link or your IndieBound link. The thing with social media, and we talk about this a lot, excuse me, when you're doing social media, think of it like a cocktail party. You don't go in and say, here's my book. Do you want my book? Hey guys, I have a book. I don't know if you know, but I'm a big deal and I have a book. Because people will quickly not want to listen to you anymore. However, if you go in and say, oh, hey, how's it going? I just saw the most hilarious thing online. What do you like to do? Do you have kids? Oh, yeah, no, I'm a writer. I have a book. Oh, yeah, do you want to see it? That is how we connect with people on a real basis, where we're not being obnoxious, where we're not shoving our book in front of people's faces. Make friends. Treat the internet like a cocktail party where you are finding common ground, you're building relationships so that when you talk about your book, people care. And don't spam people with your book. If you're on social media, talk about other things. Talk about your dog. Talk about, I love to cook. I love food. And so I post a lot of food stuff on my Instagram and on my Facebook. I get the most engagement from it too. It's actually pretty hilarious. I posted a sandwich I made the other day. I got texts. I got a call from an old friend going, what was on that thing? I got so much interest about a sandwich because it wasn't work. It was something interesting and fun. I was building connections. And that's what you have to do as an author too. Whether you're sharing personally about your personal life or you're just sharing your love of books, you have to build connections and relationship if you want anyone to give a darn about your book when you're promoting it. People support people. Very rarely do they support a project if they don't support the person behind the project. So yes, you can do mock-up shots, you can do book things, but also post things that you care about. If you've struggled or if you've got a win, or ask an open-ended question. That's what we need to focus on. Let's see. Yes, and then a great question I had come in this week was about a press release, and the person said, when I am doing a press release, should I include a link to Amazon? Do I include a link to Ingram Spark? Like, what do I include? You guys, include your ISBN and your price, because press releases are going out to a whole bunch of people. Not everyone has access to an Ingram account, which is a wholesale account. You have to have special access and resell license for. Not everyone's going to love Amazon. Give them your ISBN and your price so that anyone can take that ISBN and go look it up. If I'm an average reader, I can take your title on ISBN and I can go look up your book on Amazon. I can also go look it up on IndieBound. And as someone who has access to an Ingram wholesale account, I can go look it up there and order your book if I'm a librarian or a bookstore. ISBN, price, and title. That's what you must, absolutely must include in your press release and pretty much any marketing material. Now, if you also want, if you know this is going, to people at large, not so much retailers or wholesalers, this is going to the public at large. If you also want to link into Amazon, great. Or you link to your website where you've got all of your links and make that link that you have in your press release work a little bit harder for you. Say it's available wherever books are sold. So, all right, we're at the end of our hour, but I'm gonna see if I can get our last couple of questions done. Let's see, that was, all right. We had a question a couple of weeks ago, and unfortunately we weren't able to get to it, but we had a question a couple of weeks ago saying, if you hire an agent to represent your children's books, if you have several titles, how do they pitch them? Do they pitch a la carte? Do they begin with a certain title or a strongest story? Do they start with the first book in the series? In children's books, or really any books, if you have more than one title, how does an agent pitch those books? And for this one, we pulled in our fantastic friends over at Talcott Notch to answer, and the answer was, it depends on the agent. It depends on the agent and how they work and who they're pitching to. They may pitch your books one at a time. They may say, this is your strongest story. Let's lead with this one to get you into the marketplace. Or they may say, your pitch is strongest going in as a series. It depends on the agent, depends on your goals and their goals, and also it's something that you should absolutely talk about before signing on with an agent. So as far as how that goes, it really depends, as so many things in publishing and marketing. It depends on different factors, and you have to start with a conversation of, do you have a personal opinion? Do you have goals yourself that you're asking them to pitch more than one book? Start there and work out. And a good agent will work with you. They'll talk it through, and they'll also tell you why they suggest certain things. Keeping in mind, an agent stands to earn income if your book sells and if it does well. They've got your best interest in mind. So how they pitch your book, they may have an angle, and it's okay to ask what it is. I mean, they are your partner. So ask them what they think and why, and then start from there and work outwards. All right. Yeah. Do you recommend using a universal book link like bookstoread.com, which is from Drafted Digital? I see no downside to using a universal book link. The only thing is that if someone uses a universal book link, and let's say I use it and I choose Barnes & Noble once, it caches that information in my internet browser, and it will always send me directly to Barnes & Noble. That's the only annoying thing. It doesn't always take us to the landing page, but those universal book links from Drafted Digital through bookstoread.com are fantastic, and I say use away, use them all. All right. Let's talk copyright pages. Any special sequence of info? My designer says put the credits first, but I don't see a pattern when I look at copyright pages. I want to put credits lower down on the page. If you have a question about copyright, number one, this is not legal advice. This is design advice. Go find a book in your genre and look at their copyright page and see what they're doing. We emulate success. We emulate things that are great. But generally, you will see the copyright at the very top. You will see all rights reserved. If there's a caveat on the story, you know, this fictional story, all characters are made up, or maybe it's a health book and it's, you know, this is not health advice. It's not been approved by the FDA, blah, 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 whatever it is. Typically, you see that towards the top. Then we see the publisher information, your ISBNs, and then we often will see cover credits or artist credits. Can you move it up? Could you have that under the copyright? Sure. It's not very common. I would say usually you see the cover credits be mid to lower down on a copyright page. But go check out a book. Go pick it up and use it. And I think it's perfectly fine to say, I want it to look like this. This is a HarperCollins book that's selling millions of copies. I would like to emulate them. And this is how I'd like to do it. And I think that's perfectly fine. And many books actually don't even list design credit. So unless it's in your contract, you don't necessarily have to do that. It's certainly nice to do and it's great to do, but just know you've got options, and depending on what your goals or personal reasons are, that's up to you. But you need your copyright, you need your ISBNs, publisher information, that kind of thing on there. But as far as where it goes, when you self-publish, you kind of get to choose. All right, you guys, I think we got through all the questions. I did not check Facebook, my friends. If you are over on Facebook and I didn't get your question, please email it in, questions with an S at freeadvicefridays.com. You can email it in. We'll get to it next week. You can always join us on Zoom. If you go to newshelves.com/FAF, that is the webinar registration for Zoom. You can always join us here. Until next time, have a beautiful weekend, and I'm so excited for you guys to just go out this week. If you're not on Facebook, join us in our Free Advice Friday Facebook group. We'd love to see you there, and we'll see you next week. Bye.